Let's read together Geronimo Stilton's story, The Mouse Island Marathon. Dear friends, welcome to the world of Geronimo Stilton. Let's begin the book of The Mouse Island Marathon. Ding ding!
At last, the plane landed in Nibbles. I was exhausted. When we reached the hotel, I crawled straight into bed.
Don't forget to set your alarm clock. The big race is tomorrow.
Champ reminded me. I sat up in bed. Holy cheese! I was so tired, I had forgotten all about the marathon. I started to worry. What if I tripped? What if I fainted? I didn't shut my eyes until 6 a.m. 2 minutes later, the alarm went off.
Ding ding!
I was a wreck. When I got to the hotel lobby, I noticed something strange. A lot of other runners had bags under their eyes too. Maybe I wasn't the one who was nervous. A mouse with pretty honey-colored fur tapped my shoulder.
Is this your first marathon?
She asked.
Mine too. I'm Honey's fur.
I smiled. Maybe this marathon business wasn't so bad after all. Yeah, well, my name is Stilton. Geronimo Stilton, I began. But I was interrupted by Champ. He stood on a platform near a huge open window. In one paw he held a microphone, in the other he held a stack of note cards.
Dear rodent friends, I'd like to welcome you all to the Mouse Island Marathon.
He squeaked, reading his speech off the cards.
For some of you, this is your first marathon, and I want to congratulate you on your courage. You will soon see that running a marathon is a truly wonderful experience.
Right then, a big gust of wind blew in the window. It picked up Champ's cards and tossed them all over the room.
My speech!
Champ muttered. Looking lost, I decided to help Champ out. I grabbed the microphone from him. Well, hello. My name is Geronimo Stilton, and I'm very excited to be running my first marathon today, I stammered. I've been training really hard for this race. I've even given up all my favorite foods like triple deluxe cheddar burgers and my dear Aunt Ratilda's homemade cream cheese. Before I knew it, I was drooling all over the microphone. I looked around. The other runners were drooling too.
Drooling means drop saliva uncontrollably from the mouth.
Champ glared at me. I didn't mean to cause a scene, making everyone remember the foods they had given up. Still, could I help if I just couldn't say no to cream cheese?
The marathon, the oldest long-distance running race, became an Olympic sport at the world's first modern edition of the Games in 1896. The name marathon goes back to 490 BC, when the Greek soldier Philippus ran from the battlefield of Marathon to Athens, 24.85 miles, to announce victory over the Persians.
The length of the marathon was initially fixed according to the distance run by Philippides, 24.85 miles, but following the 1908 London Olympics, the distance was changed to its present length, 26.2 miles. This corresponds to the distance between Windsor Castle, where the race began, and the White City Stadium, where it ended.
Over the years, the marathon has been adopted as a major sporting event by several of the world's most important cities. The oldest annual marathon is the Boston Marathon, which has been around since 1897. It figures.
Before I knew it, it was time to start the race. runners spilled out of the hotel. We were greeted by a rush of frozen air. It was snowing. Luckily, I was prepared. I pulled a hat over my ears and wrapped a scarf around my snout. I stumbled blindly through the snow. A minute later, I walked smack into another runner.
Watch where you're going, furball.
The mouse muttered. His voice sounded familiar. It was Gloomy Gus von Cacklefur. He was the uncle of my strange friend, Crepilla von Cacklefur. Gloomy Gus was just as weird as his niece, and he was always complaining about something.
It figures we'd get stuck running in the middle of a snowstorm. Huh, Geronimo?
He grumbled.
The weather in Nibbles is the worst. When the north wind blows, your fur turns to icicles. When the south wind blows, you can fry an egg on your snout.
I listened politely as Gloomicus moaned and groaned about, well, everything. I shook my head in sympathy. What else could I do? There was no cheering up old Gloomicus. In fact, if you looked up the word miserable in the dictionary, you'd probably find his picture next to it.
Keep your paws on the ground.
The marathon's starting line was on a giant bridge. I could hardly believe the crowd. It was huge. There were young rodents, old rodents, and rodents of all different sizes, shapes, and colors. There were serious athletes and cheese puffs like me. Some athletes were blind and were paired with guides. Others were in special wheelchairs, which they moved using their paws. What an amazing sight! For the first time, I started to relax. If rodents with disabilities could do a marathon, maybe I could do it too. I began to get excited. Yes, Geronimo, I told to myself, you can do it. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a beat-up old pickup truck. The rat who was driving it looked just like an undertaker. A sign on the back of the truck read, "Rest in pieces."
Don't worry if you don't make it. I'll pick up your remains.
The rat snickered through the window. A shiver ran down my fur. Oh, who was I kidding? I wasn't an athlete. I couldn't run a marathon. Even though it was freezing outside, I broke into a sweat. My head began to pound. My paws shook. An old mouse patted me on the shoulder.
Don't be nervous, Sunny. All you have to do is keep your paws on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
He advised.
My name is Old Rat Rickety, but you can call me Rickety for short. I've been running marathons for 35 years, and let me tell you, they never get boring. Yep. Something tells me this one's going to be the craziest yet.
I gulped. Old Rat Rickety was starting to look a little crazy himself. His eyes gleamed. His whiskers whirled in the wind. Before he moved on, he whispered one last bit of advice in my ear.
Just remember, Sunny,
He squeaked.
never give up, never stop believing in yourself, and never get the purine cheese rolls that stop and squeak. They're awful.
I was about to ask Rickety what he thought about the cherry cheese Danish when a mouse wearing an official-looking suit held up his paw. Everyone on the bridge grew silent.
All marathon runners line up, please.
The mouse squeaked into a megaphone. Then he blew a horn so loud I nearly jumped right out of my fur. The marathon was starting.
On your mark, get set, go! On your mark, get set, go!
The official mouse yelled. And we were off. I must admit, it was incredible. 32,000 rodents running all at once. I took off along the bridge. After a little while, we hit a sign that read 1 mile, mile 1. I was so proud of myself. So far, I didn't feel tired at all. I guess all those torturous mornings with Champ had really paid off. On both sides of the road, the crowd cheered us along,
Bravo! Bravo!
and Old Mouse with white fur cried.
You can do it!
His friend added.
Yippee!
A baby mouselet clapped her paws. Everyone wanted to see us run. I felt like a real celebrity. I pushed my shoulders back and straightened my scarf, just in case anyone wanted to take my picture. You never know. Some of the spectators carried signs. They said things like,
Keep up the pace! You're the best! And shake a paw, Grandma Beady Eyes!
That last one gave me a tiny pang. I wished my family could have been there to cheer me on too. After 3 miles, I stopped at a water station. Champ always told me how important it is to drink liquids while you are exercising. A smiling race assistant passed me a plastic cup of water. Then he threw his paws around my neck. At first, I panicked. Was he trying to strangle me? Was he after my expensive cheddar-colored scarf? Then the mouse squeaked in my ear.
Surprise, Uncle!
It was my nephew, Benjamin.
I'm here to cheer you on. You are doing great.
He cried. Did I mention I have the sweetest nephew in the world?
Snap out of it.
After seeing Benjamin, I had new energy. I ran and ran. I was actually feeling okay, but after 13 miles, everything started to go downhill. No, I'm not talking about the road. I'm talking about yours truly. I felt awful. My paws were heavier than 2 blocks of my grouchy grandma One Whisker's fruit cheesecakes. My knees were shaking, and I had sprained my tail. I wanted to stop. I wanted to rest. I wanted to check into the nearest day spa and get a 2-hour massage. Just then, the creepy rat with the beat-up pickup truck pulled alongside of me. He opened the door.
Ready to give up? I'll take you away.
He smirked. I was so scared that I took off again, sobbing like a newborn mouselet.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
I wailed.
Snap out of it, little brother. Of course you can do it.
A familiar voice called out. I stopped crying and opened my eyes wide. Trap and Thief were standing right in front of me. In a flash, Trap shoved a thick piece of cheddar into my mouth.
The mouse in the cheese shop told me this cheddar has double the protein of your ordinary cheese. You'd better like it, dear mister. It cost me a bundle.
He squeaked. I gobbled down the cheese in one bite. It was amazing. But I still wanted to quit. This marathon is too long for me, I blubbered. Thea rolled her eyes.
Of course it's long.
She snickered.
That's why it's called a marathon. Now stop winning and start running. You don't want to tell Champ he wasted his time with you, do you?
I gulped. Thea was right. Champ would have a fit if I gave up now. I kept on running. Oh, my aching paws.
Roasted mouse.
After 20 miles, the south wind started blowing. It came from the Mouse Hurrah desert. Now it was hot, hot, hot. I took off my hat, scarf, and tracksuit. It was boiling. My whiskers were dripping with sweat. At that moment, the sky turned a funny yellow color. Before I could say cheese niblets, there was a tremendous blast of wind. A second later, I couldn't see a thing. I was covered from head to paw with sand. It was a sandstorm.
Everyone get down!
Another runner yelled. We crouched down together behind a wall. It sheltered us from the wind and sand. We covered our snouts with handkerchiefs so that the sand couldn't get in our mouths and noses. A car motor rumbled in the distance. I just knew it was that creepy rat in the pickup truck. He couldn't wait for someone to drop. I shivered. I hoped it wouldn't be me. I decided to pass the time by humming nursery rhymes. Everyone joined in. We were just finishing the second chorus of Pop Goes the Gerbil when the storm ended. I wiped off my glasses, said goodbye to other runners, and took off. Bzz, bzz, bzz. I had only gone a little farther when I heard a strange buzzing noise. Bzz, 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 bzz. The buzzing got louder and louder. All of a sudden, a black cloud fell over me. It was a giant swarm of bloodthirsty mosquitoes. The mosquitoes made a feast of my fur. I felt like the strawberry cheesecake at my nephew's birthday party. Every bug wanted a piece of me. I tried slapping them away, but it was no use. They just kept coming back for more. I was being eaten alive. Headlines flashed before my eyes. Mouse-hungry mosquitoes make a meal out of publisher Geronimo Stilton, all chewed up and nowhere to go. Finally, I ran and ran. The buzzing stopped. I opened one eye. The cloud of black mosquitoes swirled off into the sky, wet up to the whiskers. I was so happy to be away from the sand and the mosquitoes. For a moment, I almost forgot that I was running in a crazy marathon. I felt the warm sun on my fur. I listened to the birds singing in the trees. Ah, what a beautiful day, I thought. Then I noticed a pretty little pond off to the side of the road. It looked so calm and peaceful. I scampered over and dipped one sore paw into the water. The cold water felt fabulous. I leaned over to splash my snout. Big mistake. Splash! I fell headfirst into the pond. I was wet up to my whiskers. Green scum from the bottom of the pond stuck to my fur. As I pulled myself out of the water, just then the rat in the pickup truck pulled up.
You smell worse than the mice at the morgue.
He snickered.
Ready to call it quits? I'm sure they'd love to meet you.
I shivered.
Pond scum flew in all directions.
Smack! Some of it hit the driver right in the snout. He took off with a scowl. That will teach him, I giggled to myself.
A school in flames.
I started running again. My paws pounded the pavement. Just as I turned the corner, it smelled like something was burning. In the distance, I could see a school building sitting on a hill. Flames shot from the roof. I signaled to some of the other runners. Quick! They need our help, I squeaked. We got there in the nick of time. Crying mouselets stumbled out of the exits while their teachers tried to keep them calm. One mouselet was missing. I didn't stop. I just ran inside. Burning embers were falling everywhere. The roof started to cave in. I was scared out of my fur. But what could I do? I had to find that mouselet. Finally, I found the terrified mouse in the school's music room. He was hiding under the piano.
I scooped him up and carried him outside to safety.
Everyone clapped and cheered when we emerged safely outside. I felt like a big cheese. I took off on the race, but this time I had a huge smile on my snout.
Earthquake!
I was still smiling as I scampered by a grassy field. But before long, I noticed something odd. The grass seemed to be rising. I squinted. What was going on? Was I dreaming? Was I going blind? Was I headed for the mad mouse center? Just then, the earth began to shake beneath my paws. Now I knew what was going on. I had read about it in the City of Nibbles guidebook. Every 10 years or so, the place got hit by an earthquake.
Rat munching rattlesnakes!
I felt faint with fear. I took off my glasses so I could cry freely. I want my mommy! I squeaked. Then I noticed a blurry figure to one side of me. I squinted. It was Honeyfur. The pretty rodent I had met at the beginning of the race. Oh, why did I always have to act like such a fraidy mouse? Just then, we heard someone shouting. A gaping chasm had opened up in the middle of the road. One of the runners was about to
Fall?
to the bottom. I had an idea. Quickly, I gathered everyone's running jackets. I tied them together to form a rope. Then we pulled the runner to safety. Honeyfur patted my paw.
Great idea.
She whispered. I grinned. Score one for the fraidy mouse.
I tied our jackets together to form a rope. Hold on tight!
I was so proud of myself. I felt a sudden burst of energy. I felt strong. I felt focused. I felt wet. I looked down. Holy cheesecake! I was so busy rescuing the other runner, I hadn't heard the sound of rushing water.
Look out! The Rattenberg River has burst its bank!
A mouse called. All of the marathoners began to panic. Crashing waves suddenly surrounded us. I was terrified. I grabbed the paw of the mouse next to me. That gave me an idea. Hold on tight to each other. If we do that, maybe we won't be swept away, I yelled. We formed a...
Marathon mouse chain.
It worked. We didn't get carried away by the river. Slowly the waves subsided. We were ready to race again.
Great grandmother Stinky Fur.
I was about to take off when I saw a runner by the side of the road. She was staring sadly at the ground. Tears trickled down her fur. Are you okay? I asked. The rodent wrung her paws.
I have lost my watch. It means so much to me. It belonged to my great grandfather Stinky Fur. Oh, I just have to find it.
She sobbed. I felt sorry for her. I felt sorry for great grandmother Stinky Fur too. I mean, did her fur actually stink? I figured now wasn't the time to ask. Instead, I searched the ground for the lost watch. Time passed. The other runners were long gone.
I don't want to keep you, Mr. Stilton.
The mouse said, sighing.
Please go back and finish the race.
At that very moment, I thought I saw something shining in the dust. I bent down. Could it be? It was.
My watch!
The mouse squeaked. She threw her paws around me in a bone-crushing hug.
Cheese balls in the road?
I took a deep breath and rejoined the race. I was feeling pretty strong. I could hardly believe it. I was doing it. 2 seconds later, the muscular rodent in front of me fell to the ground. What was it this time? Cheese balls in the road? I looked around. Nothing seemed unusual. Are you okay? I asked the muscular rodent. By now, he was rolling around on the ground, clutching his tummy.
Oh, I'm such a fool.
The mouse cried.
I stopped at that spicy rat stand on the side of the road. Oh, now I have an awful stomachache.
I nodded sympathetically. I mean, who can resist a piping hot cheddar burrito? Yummy! Ahem, well, maybe I can help, I offered. I have a weak stomach too. I pulled a Swiss cheese flavored mint from my pocket. Here, try this, I squeaked. The big mouse sat down on the curb and popped the mint in his mouth. A few minutes later, he jumped up.
Geronimo, you're my hero. I feel like a new mouse.
He squeaked. Then he smacked me on the back in the thanks and took off. Forget Big Paws. That mouse should change his name to.
Jagundo Paws. Dear friends, this remaining story will be continued in part 3. For more updates, please like, share, and subscribe. And please share it with your friends. Also, like this video. Thank you.